Yeah, you already know what it is. 237, place like home. Catch me on the stool. And today, yo, cuz I heard all of us in the building. Somebody said, Harlem World was in the building, baby.
Harlem is in the building, but let her introduce herself. There you go. Let her tell the people who she is.
My name's Afrika O's, born, raised, and stayed in Harlem, uptown, West Side girl.
Harlem in the building.
I'm here on the stool.
Well, you know, Bedford-Stuyvesant and Harlem are very similar with, you know, brownstones, our communities. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
Oh, here we go. It's so crazy because y'all hate on us like Brooklyn Hills. We just a neighborhood and we still got y'all shook like we a borough. Like we just amazing. We got a measly 30, 40 blocks. And
you right about that, a measly. You right, measly.
Let me not say shook. We got the respect though. Y'all know us.
No doubt. I got love for Harlem.
Yeah, we come up there to Grandstone and everything.
Oh, wow. Y'all outside.
Harlem was nice.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
we did everything.
Yeah.
Willie Burgers.
Yeah.
Y'all was outside. That's so bad.
Yeah. You know how it go though. You know, you go to anywhere. You know, somebody say we're Brooklyn at. You know, I don't know what they say about your side of the town. You know, we get around, baby. We just have a little bit. You know, got around outside a little bit.
Batman Scoop, man.
Yes. Salute. Not true. It come full circle because you just told us your mama was from this town.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, she had a lot to do with who you are. So, you know, it's a lot of Bed-Stuy still.
Yeah, my great grandmother, she was from Barbados, and we found her name in the book in Ellis Island. So she moved to Brooklyn, like a lot of people grandparents did. It's a big Caribbean place, so she moved here. So when my mother was born, she was born here for a couple of years, and then she moved around. But she always loved New York. So
shout out to the Parkway. Big up.
Yeah.
Yo, shout out Sophia and Grace one time.
Oh yeah, the cookies.
They hooked us up.
Yes, always.
So shout out Sophia and Grace too.
How was that lemon butter? Look. Even guys over there just said, "Yo, what up?" It was alright. Yeah. So, of course, you know, we keep our ear to the streets. And your story, to be once incarcerated, to have come full circle and pass the bar. Now,
you didn't even tell us that story.
I'm getting ready to act it. Chill. I'm letting the people. Oh, you want her to? Okay, well, let her tell. Okay, then. Okay.
So what happened was, so I think I'm gonna start a little bit further back because I think a lot of people, I don't know if any of y'all have been locked up, but I think a lot of times we think the story starts when you get locked up. I will say life is different, like it's pre-incarceration, post-incarceration, but I don't want my life to just start there because that's a big problem that a lot of people have when we come home. They just think, oh yeah, like you was locked up and that was when you was born. It's like, no, it's a lot of life before that, but like I said, born, raised, and stayed in Harlem. My mom loved Harlem through and through. I grew up single parent household, oldest of 4 kids. So my mom was always a hustler. She always loved the community. She was real big. We used to do the block parties. We had the tenant association, the block association, back when that was a thing. And my mom did a lot of community advocacy and work. So I grew up like I would walk around. People, I remember when you was a baby. It was like that community, or people looking out the window, like your mother looking for you. Go home, like that. So I was always a smart girl. My mom, funny enough, it was kind of like weird. I always felt like I was like on the intersection of being very privileged, but also having very unfortunate or oppressed circumstances because my mom went to HBCU and she graduated, but we still grew up very poor, grew up in poverty. And there's actually all these studies that show that a lot of Black Americans that go to college actually wind up going back, like in a class level. So that was the experience we had. But my mom was still very big on, we poor, but like we still we still gonna make it happen. We still gonna do stuff. We rich, right? So
stuff.
we was in the library every weekend. We was reading a lot. We didn't have cable. We had the bootleg cable. You know, like everybody had the little bootleg cable. But in summer, they snip you off.
Right. We from the hood, baby. We understand.
So you know, that was the life that I lived. Again, very smart. I was always really into school, but how it is for us, like you in the suburbs, when the teenagers hang out, they go to the mall. But when we hang out, we outside.
Yeah.
That's
we
what
outside.
we do. So I was always into school, but I was outside with my friends. We was just like running the streets. We was just doing what you do when you're young. And in Harlem, we didn't really have like traditional like Bloods and Crips. We had like little like teams, or like if you was from a certain neighborhood or from certain projects, it was kind of like that, like more like geographical. Like we played. So you know, I was just being young. I was running around. I was dating a couple different people, and one guy I was seeing, he was heavy in the streets, and he got caught up in some stuff. And this was during the time when they were starting to sweep all the streets. So it was this thing called Operation Crew Cut back in like 2011, and they was cracking down on all these gangs, but they wasn't really gangs. It was just literally like the definition of a gang for them was people that wear the same color, that use the same words, and might affiliate with the same people. What's that? That could be any of us. Like
that is us.
Or three of y'all got heads. That's the game, right? So that was what was going on. So it was all these large sweeps. So it was recording calls, and they was just locking up everybody. So my case in 2011 was the first one. It was like the test case. So they locked. I was the only girl. I think it was February 15th, 2011, and it was 15 co-defendants. I was the only girl, and they locked us up. I'll never forget. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. They knocking on the door. So we live in the hood. So me and my mother both wake up. My mother, she got a bat at the door. I go grab a knife because who knocked the door? Like it's the police or somebody trying to get you. So we open, we see the police, and then they got like the SWAT on the roof and on the fire escape. So I'm thinking like back in the day when I was a little rough, so I'm like, dang, I got into a fight with this girl. Did she call the cops on me? Like, what's going on? And no, they like, we have this grand jury indictment. They won't even tell me what it's for. My mother's asking all these questions because she knows stuff. And she knew about the law. So she's asking all these questions. They won't tell her anything. So we wind up getting on this chain gang, getting locked up. We try to go to Rikers. We try to go to the courthouse. Court is closed. They take us to the Rikers, but we can't process because we haven't been told our charges. So we're just in this limbo state. And then finally the next day, I get to court, and I see all these reporters. They taking pictures. I'm like, what is going on? And I hear the charges. They like conspiracy in the first, second, possession of a weapon. And I didn't know much, but I knew like conspiracy is the worst crime. Like once you get with a conspiracy, I was like, oh my God. Then they start talking bail, and I'm like, okay, let's see. This was working. So I'm like, I never had any priors. I know you only need 10%. They like 100,000, and the judge is like, oh, that's too much. Let's drop it to 50. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna be here. And then that was, where it started. And because I grew up in the community, I lived right across the street from my church, Apostolic Baptist. So I was in the choir. I was going there every weekend up until I was a teenager. But I was still involved. My mother was involved. So she went to the church, like, my daughter's in this situation. Can y'all help? So the church, the pastor, one of the pastors at the time, Ebony Marshall Turman, went to Reverend Butts. He just passed away, rest in peace. Yeah. Was like, look, she's one of our daughters. She grew up in here. Like, we have to help her. So they rallied together. They was packing the court for me. And the judge didn't like that. They thought that I was going to be the snitch. They were like trying to pressure me. They thought that I was going to cooperate. Oh, okay. So when the church showed up and they were like, look, we'll bail her out. I remember I thought I was going home this day. I looked crazy because I was on the front. So I'm also on the front page of the papers. It's all in the news. And how I found out, my mom came to visit, and I hadn't seen her all week because just the way white people kept taking my mom to visit. But I go back after the visit, and people keep saying Africa. I'm looking like, are people saying my name? And this lady comes up to me with a newspaper, and she's like, excuse me, is this you that I'm reading about? And I'm on the front page of the paper. And I was like, oh my God. So, the church rallies together, and like, the help her with her out. And the judge is like, so I'm thinking I'm going home this day. The judge was like, nah. He was like, no, y'all need to follow this law, this rule. So I got to go back. And eventually they are able to bail me out. So I was there for 3 months, and then I came home on bail, and then my lawyer worked out this really great deal. It's a 6-5 split, 6 months, 6 months on Rikers, 5 years probation. So I already had the 3 months, so I had to go back for the summer. And then I went in, I did my 3 months, and then I did 2 years on probation. So my sophomore year of college, I actually was when my case finally closed. And then from there, I went on and I was a Fulbright scholar, and then I went to law school a couple years after that, and I just passed the bar early. So now I'm just waiting to get my stuff together and get sworn in, and I'll be a full lawyer.
Yo, I felt like you sped through a lot. I felt like you sped through a whole lot just right there and then like, all right, so I got locked up. I did the summertime, and then boom, I was a lawyer. I came out, and then I'm on the street.
I was like, I'm talking a lot, so let me ask the questions.
So look, now for nothing, while you was in there, what made you want to study law? Like, why'd you want to become a lawyer?
I always knew I wanted to go. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, go to law school, because I remember coming home one day and there was an eviction notice on the door. So, my mom was worried about it, obviously, and I'm stressed because I know we're going through an eviction. And my mom was like, we gonna figure it out. And she went to court and won. She beat the landlord, which is so hard for a self-represented single black mom who never went to law school to beat these landlords, because they do all types of tactics to get you to not win, or they don't show up, or they keep pushing it, and people don't got to go work, right? So she won, but what really amazed me was after she won, she then was helping everybody in the building, and then everybody on the block, and she would tell them, oh, do the order to show cause, and then call 311 and document this. So my mom was so big on, I won, but it's like a win for the community, and I'm gonna put everybody on game, and I'm gonna teach them how to do this. So seeing my mom be an advocate, that was really big for me, and I loved the fact that just seeing just the power. And she would always tell me, like, when you know the law, you have power, but when you're not a lawyer, they make it so hard. When you have that degree, even if you look crazy, if they got the Esquire after your name, they treat you different, and it's true.
Yeah.
They treat you different in the courtroom. So
Mom was one of your biggest.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
While this whole thing was going on, I think that there's so many of us, and I'm talking about from our community, that get caught up in these situations, and the sad thing about it is, everybody does the time. The person that's in jail. And the people outside on the other side waiting for you, trying to figure out what's going on. Because Rikers Island, for all of those who have never been to a visit on Rikers Island, I want to tell you, Rikers Island makes it so you do not come to visit people. You go to the state. You would rather go visit somebody in a state facility than on Rikers Island. And, we've been, there several times, you know what I'm saying? And it's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
It's hard.
I got locked up that same year. I got locked up in 2011 too. My first time, and never been locked up. My first time, and they put my bail at $250,000. With the surety and everything.
Yo, but you took a meal though.
No. That's the thing. And shout out to Holly for those too.
Oh yeah.
What he thought his bail was gonna be? The paper was like, yo, you ain't take the meal. I ain't take
Yo. Listen, this is all alleged, all right? This is all alleged. No, I'm talking about the $1 million. This is all alleged.
They had time. Yeah, he did the time already. Yeah. I wound up doing 2 years straight. I never been in jail. Yo, cuz my problem with it is, Africa, we ain't see none of that. We was all together, but we ain't see none of that bread. That ain't just burnt it up outside.
And it's crazy because when they locked them up, right? Because I wouldn't, let them go through my house to find out any more evidence. Because what happened was, if we're going to tell it, they found some bullets in the house. So once they found the bullets, now they want to go through the house. So I'm like, no, I'm not giving y'all any, you're not going through the house to try to give them another charge. So what they did was, they took out a charge.
Yeah.
And they was like, even with the children, you know what I'm saying? Because there was a firearm they suspected. Because they didn't find a firearm, but they suspected a firearm. So with them suspecting a firearm, that means the children was in jail.
No, they found firearm.
Yeah, but that wasn't for you. They wasn't find that specific firearm for those shells.
Shells, yeah.
Yeah. So they found one,
We had firearms. We was ready for that.
My time, no double jeopardy.
Brooklyn niggas be acting crazy. So you going now? What's the difference between what you say is Esquire, and I don't know, is there a difference between an attorney and a lawyer?
Yes, I always mess up because I think a lawyer is somebody that hasn't been sworn in, and I think an attorney is one that has their license. Is that correct?
A little bit. It's like technically yes, but technically no.
Okay.
Technically, like you're not a lawyer even when you graduate.
Is it when you pass the bar that you're a lawyer? So you're a lawyer when you pass the bar, but you're an attorney when you're sworn in. Yeah. Okay, so that's what it is.
So like what, you got to get sworn in by a judge or something?
Yeah, by the first department. They just you got to pay. You got to pay for the license essentially, and so some just fill in the application. They do a background check, and they you watch the training videos and stuff. So
you're gonna be you passed the bar, so you're gonna be a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer now.
Okay. So are you gonna get sworn in?
Yeah. It's just a long process.
Now, what you get sworn in? Because now I want to know. When they locked y'all up, I'm saying those laws had to be, they was ambiguous. Like they were so broad that, like you said, we wore the same colors.
Right.
You could have sat down and said who was in the gang.
Right.
Just like some of these RICO charges. Mm-hmm. Are you planning to fight your case? Mm-hmm. Because I think there's an expunge something like
I have a YO, so because it's a YO, it's closed. It's not necessarily. It's expunged, but it could be opened if I were to catch a felony case.
Okay.
But
they're sure open. It's a pack. You know what I'm saying?
But I did a lot of advocacy work when I worked at the Center for Constitutional Rights, and I did a lot of work on this gang database because what makes this even deeper and more frustrating and saddening is that the NYPD has a database. It's the gang database, and I mean, it's crazy. Everyone's in it. They had children in it because the way that the metrics were is like if you're affiliated with someone. So if your father is in a gang, or if they said he was in a gang, then they said that your mom was affiliated with him. They would put her there. And then if you're born, then automatically you were there. There were like a 1,000 or so kids under the age of 5 on the database. So you're born into this. And then that means when you get stopped by the police and they look you up, now you have an escalated interaction. And that is a very big problem. So I did a lot of advocacy work on this gang database because it's deeper than just, the sweeps and just my case. It's like, it's another shackle, the continuous monitoring. I mean, even with the shot spotters that they have and all of that, then facial recognition, all that data is going somewhere. And it changes the way police will interact with you if they believe that you're in a gang. Changes. And then if you get locked up, you're put in a certain unit. And it's just a new way to continue to monitor and track people unlawfully.
Was there anything you learned after the fact that you think could have helped you? Like if you would have known at the beginning when the police ran down on you.
Stop talking so much.
No, that's good. Oh, y'all talking.
I mean, there's a lot. Like talking, I think like there were a lot of opportunities for me to avoid being in this situation, and I just kept resisting it because I thought I was in love, and I just wanted to be loyal so bad. And I think that was just a culture growing up. Like a lot of us, that's supposed to be a ride or die. Like supposed to be loyal, and I think that going back, I would just want to walk. I think it was if a person really loves you, they'll never put you in a situation to jeopardize your life. And I had a lot going for myself, but even if I didn't, that's not love. Like no, and y'all OGs, y'all know, like a real man's not gonna put a woman in a position to especially over something that they're doing, right? So,
you might hear but how can you avoid? So look, you wanted to know how can you avoid something that you don't see coming? Tell the people's outside something useful to know, because now you're a lawyer. You know what I mean? So tell them something, especially for the young folks out there, in case they have interactions, and always keep your mouth shut. Interactions with police that they should know.
keep your mouth shut. Stop speaking. Stop posting online. Be mindful of the location services on your phone. That everything on the phone is being tracked by towers. So be mindful of locations. Be mindful of what you post on social media. Be mindful of people that follow you. Just even if it's not just police, it's so easy to get this information. I look at people's pages and I'm like, wow, I can figure out where you work, where you live, where your grandmother lived, because it's all online. So be very mindful of the personal life that you put online. But when it comes to police, you don't have to talk to the police. You don't have to speak. It's scary when police do stop and interact with you, but you don't run. Also, just don't. I know people have an instinct to run. Don't run. That's never good. But just remain calm. If you're in a vehicle, unless cars are a little tricky. I won't talk on cars because I don't want to get nobody bad advice. Yeah. But
well, Jada and Ghost said run.
It just makes things worse, and then you look like a suspect, and then now it's probable cause because it's the police's word over yours, and now they do have probable cause to search you, and then you may have something that has nothing to do with what they're looking for, and now you're caught up, now you're in the system. Once you're in that system, with your fingerprinting, your pictures there, it just makes it all the easier for you to continue being tracked and monitored. So you just want to avoid that as much as possible.
It's crazy. We live here in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and I found out that as long as you keep your gate closed, as long as you don't invite them in, if they don't have a reason, they could pull up and talk to you from the gate. You don't actually have to let them in your gate. Like,
don't step out.
Yeah, don't step out, but make sure your gate is closed.
So I'm a little rusty on criminal procedure, but there's a lot when it comes to your house, and they can't just come in. There has to be some strong probable cause. So just because the police ask to come in, you don't have to. Unless they show you a warrant, that you do not have to let them in. So 100%. I didn't know about the gate, but that would make sense because it's part of your property. So yeah, you don't have to. When it comes to where you live, you do not have to let the cops in. That one I do know for sure, unless you do see a warrant. So
what are you going to? What kind of lawyer are you going to?
Yeah, I was about to ask that too.
I'm going into tax law.
Oh, okay. Dang, I ain't never about to ask her what kind of. No, so now she's gonna be useful to us after we get this bread, right?
You heard him, right?
After we get this bread for the show, you know what I mean? We might need somebody so we don't get jacked. I don't want to pay wild taxes.
Oh yeah.
237 logo gonna look on your neck, Daddy. If they gotta come and take that back, we ain't put the taxes Okay, tax. So, but why tax?
So this is gonna be a little long. So I read this book by a Black tax professor, Dorothy Brown. It's called The Whiteness of Wealth. She's a tax professor at Georgetown, and she's actually from the Bronx. And she talks about how the tax code we think is very neutral, right? But it's not. It's actually built on a lot of racism and it's built on the backs of slavery, like everything else, right? So my mother used to always say this too. It's only two things certain in life: death and tax.
Yes.
And then for everybody, like tax is white, black, Hispanic, anything, you gonna get taxed. So I read this book and I was so blown away by just how much, Black people, we don't know about taxes, but also just how much power there is. So back in law school, you have to take constitutional law, and we read this case. In the case, one of the justices does a concurrence or dissent, and he's basically like, Congress overstepped their power, but if they would have enacted this law under the tax and spend, they would have been able to do whatever they wanted. So I highlighted it because I said, I was like, the bag? Like, hold on, wait, that's a lot of power. So I read the book, and then I took a tax class, and I learned, the taxes, it's a secret code that we don't know. And one of the biggest debates in tax law right now stems from slavery. So back during the 3/5 compromise, the big question was, well, if Black people are 3/5 of a person, how do we tax?
Yeah.
How do we do that? Yeah. And when I learned that if a Congress wants to pass a law and they really don't want anyone to check them, it just has to be a tax. They want anything that you can control so much with taxes. So even if we go back to the foundation of America, everybody they think about the Boston Tea Party, they think about this, but what it started from was no taxation without representation. That's what they got bad at. King George was taxing everybody. and they like taxing us, and we don't get no say. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. Taxes are really the foundation of everything, but we don't know that. They don't teach us that, right? So I got really into it. I got into the history, and I also just genuinely enjoyed the type of law. I think that for me, going into law, I always wanted to figure out how I could help my people. I didn't want to do criminal law, though. I wanted to do something interesting, and I wanted to do something that would allow me to be like a double agent, where I could learn how wealthy people work, but also take that knowledge and help our people grow generational wealth. Because that was always what my goal was, to figure out how we help our people grow. I didn't want to do criminal law. That wasn't for me.
You're too pretty for that anyway. People have a gorgeous lawyer and they give me all their money.
Yo, let's go fight this. Let's go fight this case. Go fight this case.
I should be in that practice.
Chill, nah. So now, again, she's going to be useful. So I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because then, after our number come up and we get this bread, she's gonna tell us how to beat the taxes like the rich people do, so we can pay them to beat the taxes. What your man said? What your man said? He said I'm smart. That's why I pay taxes. You know what I mean?
So I mean, even if just another thing, more low-income Black people are more likely to be audited than wealthy white people, especially if you take advantage of the earned income tax credit. Those people are more likely to be audited because they think that there's more scams going because it's the way it's structured, the numbers are. And I found that so fascinating because you have so many wealthy folks that figure out how to make $1 billion and pay $1 million in taxes, but then you have Black folks that are maybe getting $5,000 extra a year, right, on a salary that's maybe $20,000, $25,000, and they're getting audited. Yeah. So then, you know, they're either gonna wind up paying a penalty, which they garnish your wages, they're gonna take your stuff, or you might go to jail, right? So I found that so fascinating that even in the tax code, which everyone thinks is so neutral, there's actually a lot of racism and a lot of inequality in there too. So I'm just overall very fascinated by tax in the way that it crosses everything is tax. Any major deals, brands, all of this stuff, everything has to touch tax. Nothing in this world can go untaxed. So I thought it was a really good, powerful tool in the law to learn, and it would allow me to help our people and, you know, stay relevant enough for wealthy people that's gonna pay my bills too. Yeah. So.
Right. So let's pay the taxes, right? Okay, forget the taxes right now. Let's go back. Let me ask your thought on the world of social media. You know, on social media, a lot of these arrest videos, these in jailhouse videos popping up online. What are they going to do? What's your thought on these videos just popping up online? Like people in jail, like in prison, all these videos, the arrest video, your death video, all types of videos is online. Do you think that should be like more sealed? Like that's private. That's people's lives that they putting online, and they getting it from the DA offices. Like the stuff that's online is ridiculous. Right? It's sad. It's sad to see somebody getting killed online. Or like, you mean somebody getting videos up, like pictures of Cole after the crash, like stuff like that. Yes. Like, like God bless that King Von. After he had got his autopsy. Yeah, pictures like that. So that's coming from inside.
The Sonia Massey video, the one. So she was the one that the cops shot, and she had the boiling water. Yeah. She was like, "God will rebuke you."
Yes.
So I think back to Emmett Till, and when Emmett Till was lynched and was murdered, and they put him in the river, the attorney came to the mom, and she was like, "I want to
ask her." Yes. She asked because she wanted them to see.
They need to see, right? Yeah. So I always think about that as a strategy, but I think in the time that we lived, so that was at a different time. Yeah. That was so media was different. I think because we keep seeing so many Black murders and Black deaths, I think that we're desensitized to it, and it's almost becoming like a trauma porn. Like you see it, and then you left with these feelings, and then you scroll to the next thing, right? So, I can't say that I feel strongly either way. I think that it's necessary to have them, but I also do think that to some degree, I don't know, it depends on what the goal is. If the goal is to get people enraged and to act, I mean, during 2020 with George Floyd, that made people stand up, and we have all those companies doing stuff, and if we didn't see that video, if we didn't have all that, we wouldn't have had all those changes, right? So I think that there's some benefit to it, but I also think that like anything, like you said, in moderation. I think that when it's oversold, when it's overdone, it sounds like it's almost like the norm.
Yeah.
Like what people expect.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's to your question about privacy. I don't know enough about privacy law, but I know like once you're on a body cam with the police, and once that's released, the privacy is a little different, and you don't really have control over that. So, I think it's necessary for us to have those images to continue. Because I think if we just completely stop them, then people will just pretend that they don't have it.
At least sign off on them. At least get. I say it got to be signed submission, consent, something like.
Yeah. And I think something for the family. I think maybe giving the family something, whether it's a little bit of, because
if you want to feel like
news companies, they're showing this and they're getting viewers. They're getting money because of the ads, right? So a cut, and it sounds weird, right? A cut should go to the family for the streaming of the death, but like, I mean, the death is expensive.
Yes,
and they're getting streams off this, right? They're getting views. So I do think that if we're gonna show it, then to balance that, then something for the family should be given.
Conversation.
Now, let's go back to tax.
Okay. I love tax because I have more to say about tax.
Because look, you said tax, your face lit up.
Because right now, Kamala Harris, she has a tax idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it was more like it's supposed to help lower class people, but it's supposed to go after these rich billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because we all know the presidents, they just figureheads.
Mm-hmm.
Congress is where the laws are passed. Unfortunately, there isn't enough, I think, representation for us in those places to make such a big change. But with the tax laws the way they are, is there a way that you can change, have the law amended by it being case law?
It's interesting. I think so. It's a couple of things I want to say. So another reason why I love tax, we pay city tax, we pay our local tax, right? And the taxes that we pay go to our schools. So I think one of the things in schools, it goes to our roads, it goes to all these services.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say like, "Oh, I'm not really an active participant in community and democracy," I'm like, "Oh no, you are. Like you just don't realize it. They're taking your money. So if you don't want to be active, that's cool. Like." In my head, I'm like, if you pussy, just say that. But like, you gonna sound like you gonna let the people take your money and you're not gonna say anything? Because that's how I feel. You choosing not to be involved. I get it. People have reasons why, but they're taking your money anyway. And when they take your money, they're putting them into these different school systems or the different. You have a say in that, though. You can join your local governments, your community boards, and you can speak on those things. Like there are certain neighborhoods in like Connecticut, Long Island, in Jersey, they pay taxes, and the public schools are like private schools.
Yes.
The taxes they pay. And then the parents are on the school board, and the school board controls the tax money. That's where all of this power, like you get the money that's getting taxed is not just, we taking it to be mean. No, it's going to a pot. And whoever controls that pot has the power, right? So for me, again, with the taxing, I think it's just so much power for us if we figure out how to effectively leverage that to get what we want as a people and as a community. So now to answer your question about, you were talking about Kamala and like, how to change case law. So there are some things that can be changed via case law with tax. It usually goes up to the Supreme Court. It's kind of slow. Most of the ways that tax is changed is through the IRC, the tax code book, basically. And it's a committee on Congress, and then there's a subcommittee, and they write it, and it's very confusing. And again, people don't know about it. And they write it in a confusing way, and I think that's what turns people off. They're like, what is this? So I think that getting more people into figuring out, the taxes raised every year, and asking that question, that's saying, like, follow the money. Yeah. You taxing me, where's this money going? Where is this? Because you see it Mayor Adams will talk about it, Governor Hochul will talk about it. Like, they're talking about how they're using our taxes or when they want to change these things. So I think that if people are taxing you and they're taking your money, you have a right to say something. You have a right to question. Every year there's budget reports put out. And you can see, where is this money going? We're paying for things that we don't even use or things that we don't have a say in. So
So when is your book or your sitcom classes coming? What book is putting out?
Boy, that MCA, man, I want to know what are they doing with
What they doing with the brand?
It's private.
I'm glad they shut. I'm glad they shut the what's the name down.
The go in tax. Right?
Exactly, and the Midtown, the Midtown joint.
Yeah, the commuting tax.
That's the commuting tax. Because I'm like, yo, why we live in the city? Why we gotta pay? We from the town. Why we gotta pay? I ain't want to tell y'all. That's why they don't let people. That's why they let you get on the bus for free. You be walking on the bus for free. Yeah. They don't announce it, but they don't even press it.
But if it's private,
I think it's partially private.
That's what I was going to say, because it's private, but they still get public funding. How does that work? Like, you telling me every year, it seems like every year,
MTA is private,
but they get partially
part of the city.
I think funded.
Because, like, when you think about it, when they're talking about giving them, you know, raising the fare again, you know what I'm saying, and again, right? And then you're telling me you're giving them $5 billion to build a tunnel up there on Second Ave or whatever that is. The rest of the tunnel. How are you broke? Who's broke here?
But see, this is the thing. I think once we realize how much buying power we have as the black community, whether it's through taxes or just literal buying power, and we say something and we come like, hold on, wait a minute. So I look and I see the budget said that y'all spent this money on it. Can you tell me more? Like going to the local meetings and pressing people, because then they start getting scared. I think the worst thing for any politician is an educated black person that's asking questions, because then there's like, wait, you wasn't supposed to, what you doing? Like, hold on. And I think when you start applying that pressure, and I noticed from other groups, not necessarily just white or whatever, I think other ethnic groups, they ask a lot of questions. And that keeps people on it. So can you explain what you're doing with that?
That's why they got the Dunkin' Donuts and gas stations and everything. But
I mean, so for example, there's a lot of grants that they'll give for immigrants. Like even in our communities, I watched this documentary about a lot of Chinese restaurants and a lot of like Korean-owned laundromats or whatever, because they were giving them grants. And I think like when we push back and we ask these questions about, well, how can we get this? How do we make this happen? Who's our local rep? I think that's what makes a difference. I know a lot of us are disengaged from national politics, and I understand. But in New York, we have some of the strongest local politics. You can really make a difference in New York.
Nah, that's why you said like because those people they get those grants and then they come in our neighborhood. You know what I mean? And then they open up these business and they flourish. They get it. They're able to take care of their families and things of that nature. Whereas we don't know. Not that we can't get it. We don't know how to get the grant. You know what I mean?
It's wild because as an immigrant, they get the tutelage on how to get the money.
Yeah.
You telling me I'm not black, I'm not American enough to do certain things when it comes to, you know, owning businesses, but I'm not an immigrant enough either to get the money.
The free bread, to get this free bread or to learn how to make it myself. Back to MTA. They broke because they gave Harlem 2 buses. They been gave Harlem double buses. They should have stopped that shit.
Yeah, because they know you need to come on my land.
It's crowded. It's too many apartments. It's too crowded.
I'll say, I think this one thing I want to be careful of. I think I've noticed this. They like to pit the immigrant and the black communities against each other. And that's a power. It's a tactic to keep us continuously divided. Yeah. And I think that if we realize we have so much more in common and we can work together and share this information, we could be even more powerful again. In addition to the educated black person, I think what also frightens powerful is when oppressed people come together. That scares them, whether it's poor white people, poor black people, poor Indian, poor Latino, that frightens them. They don't want that. So
where's people going to hear you speak out? They need your voice. Well, how are you going to spread these words?
I'm working on it. So I do have a son. So for me, I'm still working on a social media presence. I have my TikTok, I have my Instagram, and I've done TED Talks.
The little man is popping. Little man is popping. Little man is popping. There you go. I'm saying he's popping. Now he gotta be Harlem Fly.
You Harlem Fly. Come on, Harlem. Okay. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to, before all of this, I did a lot of public speaking and I tried to, get on my soapbox and talk about this. But I think now with social media, I have a better platform. I'm trying to figure it out because I'm a millennial, so I'm young. I'm still kind of old. Like, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you definitely gonna catch you on the stoop.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
Sure, baby.
yeah. Man, but we got something for you. You know,
some food.
We got some food.
We got some food for you.
We got some.
She might not even eat it.
She might not eat this. No, she gotta eat this. It's from her town. You know what I'm saying? It's from her town.
Food young.
You know what I'm saying? Cuzzo, listen, I love you, but she ain't tell me.
Well, we would have had something for you.
Definitely gonna get her something. So, of course, we do know you're from Harlem. We do know you have a love for Harlem.
Always. Hello, Harlem.
Hello, Harlem. So, you know what I'm saying? Because this is you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
She repped them hard like she hella hard. She held y'all down today, Harlem. She held y'all down today.
Yeah, if you don't know no better, you gotta
Harlem people's up here.
Yes,
she held y'all down today, Harlem.
We couldn't shut you down. You stood on yours.
No, 10 toes. I say born, bred, and blade. Like, in the Harlem. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And not only for pulling up, we want to say, please continue to do the work for the community. You know what I'm saying? We need it. You know what I'm saying? And yes, he made jokes.
No, I ain't joking. Exactly. I was serious.
It so helps the community because we see people losing their homes all the time.
Yeah.
We see people, like you said, getting audited, going to jail for things that, you know what I'm saying, probably could have been avoided.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, I paid them Long Island taxes.
But you?
I paid them taxes. Shout out to Flick Cannon. Flick paid them taxes too, baby. Okay? We know what it is. And my kids is grown, so it's being wasted at my school for me. I need to know where that's going.
When a motherfucking lawyer walk in the courtroom, it hit
it when the female.
Yeah.
Click, everybody.
Not the click.
Yeah.
They do it different though.
And we're so proud.
Yeah.
So because again, we have so many people that go in and on the come out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They don't know that there's so much more left when you come out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? You've taken it tenfold, and we want to salute you.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
You just gotta decide not to quit. Decide not to quit. Once you make that decision, you keep going. Even when I was locked up, I remember crying to my mom, and she was like, "Look, you got all the time in the world. Start studying for your GED. Like, look, you gonna figure it out."
Yeah.
But once you make that decision not to quit, the next day becomes easier. And even if the next day just means you getting out of bed, and the next day after that is you typing up a resume, just gotta keep deciding not to quit. So that's something I want to make sure I tell people. Like the guy that made this shirt, Dart, shout out to Harlem, Harlem Gatsby. But we were talking about the shirt, and he was like, Harlem is survival of the fittest. And it's true, it is survival of the fittest, survival of the flyest. But
you always taking shots.
I mean, one thing about New Yorkers, we really don't stop. We
really
fall down, we get up. And I think it's also community, like you said, when he was going through his thing and you was like, nah, I wasn't gonna let them do that. And I think even you talking about the taxes, like, oh, my kids are grown, they don't benefit, but the community does. And even once our kids get older, even when we're not like involved in the community and we're still paying, that's why it takes a village.
Yes.
That's why we got to continue to stay involved so that when people come home, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for my community, for my people.
No doubt.
I made the decision not to quit, but it's hard when you formerly incarcerated. Look, people won't give you a job, you get fired, my bank account closed.
Yeah.
But people was giving me a second chance because of my community, because they believed in me. So we can't give up on one another either. You got to make the decision not to quit on yourself, but not to quit on each other either. So
that's some New York shit right there. Right there. Yeah. And as always, y'all know what it is. Catch us on the stoop. 237.
No place like home.